Hi, welcome back to the channel. Before we get into the Chosen Few Expats Show, just wanted to mention a couple of things that I forgot to mention during the show. First of all, Kraemer Kraemer is a prestigious law firm. We did forget to mention that Marcos Kraemer was named by U Global Immigration Magazine as one of the top 25 global immigration lawyers. So again, this is a highly reputable firm that if you're starting your expat journey out looking for permanent residency, it's definitely somebody that you at least want to explore and take a look at. You can click on the QR code or scan the QR code to go into their Panama residency relocation tool, which I'm showing here and which we show throughout the interview. The other thing I wanted to mention is our online course pre-launch. Depending upon when your eyes fall on this video, we may have already launched, but our pre-launch, we have our Panama relocation online course offered at a deep discount. We're also offering a deeper discount to our Patreon members. So if you're interested in joining us on Patreon, you can scan the QR code below. Also, you can send us an email at chosenfewexpats@gmail.com if you're interested in information on the course, or you can scan the QR code that you see here on the screen. So with that, our interview here is with Guillermo Archila, an international associate consultant of Kraemer Kraemer, who goes into great detail about Panama's residency programs, the costs, and etc. So definitely check it out. Hi, welcome to the Chosen Few Expats Show. I'm Alonzo. Today we have with us a guest who's an international associate consultant with Kraemer Kraemer, Law of Panama City. Welcome Guillermo Archila to the show. Hi, Guillermo.
Hi, Alonso. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining us. We very much appreciate your time today. We're very glad to have someone who's representing a firm as reputable as Kraemer Kraemer to join us today to give our subscribers some information that they are chomping at the bit for regarding residency visas. But before we get into it, can you maybe tell our subscribers a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you ended up there at Kraemer Kraemer?
Yeah, gladly. I'm still fairly young. I started at Kraemer a little over 4 years ago as a paralegal. Still I was still in college, law school. I've been working here for over 4 years. I've been growing through the ranks. I'm now an international consultant. I specialize in a number of legal areas in particular, which are tax, corporate, asset planning, asset protection, but we also do a lot of residency here. Kind of tying it back to Kraemer Kraemer, we are a semi-full service firm. We have been in the market for over 10 years, officially since 2008. We started as a strictly residency and real estate oriented law firm, but we have kind of grown to meet all of the needs that our expat clients have when they move down to Panama. Currently, we have practice in areas like real estate, tax, corporate, asset planning, asset protection, elder law, a little bit of litigation. So as I mentioned again, full service firm.
Okay, it sounds great. So the biggest portion of your services that our subscribers are going to be interested in here are the residency visas. So we should probably start off with the Pensionado. So can you tell us a little bit about the Pensionado, the benefits of Pensionado, what's the process for obtaining it, as well as the approximate cost, because people are going to always want to know that.
Oh, definitely. The Pensionado Visa is one of our more particular visa programs here in Panama because of the fact that it is one of the older ones and it has also never been modified. Pensionado is one of the few residency programs that we have left that are tied to a 6-month application procedure. So you'll apply for your Pensionado Visa, you'll obtain a 6-month provisional, which is the time it takes immigration to review your application. And after the 6-month provisional, you'll be granted permanent residency. Main requirement for Pensionado visas for the main applicant, original police record, which must be admitted in country of citizenship or country of residency. For country of residency, it can be done if you have been residing in that country for over 2 years only. And additionally, the pension, the document that certifies the pension. Now, the pension can be either private or public, but for private pensions, we will also need to provide documents that certify that the company that provides the private pension is in existence. Additional to that, for every dependent that you include in the application, if they're over 18 years old, original police record as well. And if you have dependents as well, then you'll need to show the document that proves the link between the main applicant and the dependent. In case of spouse, marriage certificate. In case of children, birth certificates. General time frame for the application, 6 to 7 months for provisional residency, and then once it's approved, the application is finalized. Our fee for one single applicant is $3,100, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, that includes a lot of our costs. And if you decide to add dependents, then the cost will also increase.
Okay. So what is the amount that someone has to show in terms of their pension,
That is a great
their monthly
question.
benefit?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. So currently under Panamanian law, you do need, for single applicants, you need a minimum pension requirement of $1,000 per month after taxes and deductions. So not net, after taxes and deductions. If you have dependents included in your application, then the minimum pension amount increases by $250 per dependent. So if it's you and one dependent, it will be $1,250. If it's you and two dependents, $1,500, and consecutively.
Okay. I know this visa is one of the most renowned visas in the world in terms of the amount of benefits that it has. So can you maybe share some of the benefits of this particular visa with our subscribers?
No, definitely. The Pensionado Visa is very particular in the sense that it has both specific benefits that were structured into the law that created the program, and then it has benefits that apply to pensioners in general in Panama. So for specific benefits, you have the benefit for importation of personal goods up to $25,000 in value for relocating in Panama. You have the benefit to bring up to one car from overseas without paying import taxes. And additionally, you will be subject to all the benefits that are granted by law to retirees and pensioners in Panama. Discounts for medicines, discounts in restaurants, discounts for particular establishments. I believe we have a particular page in our website that covers all the benefits that are included for pensionados.
Okay, great. So that pretty much covers the Pensionado Visa. A lot of our viewers are going to also be interested in the friendly nations because a lot of people were looking at this back when the law changed. I think it was August of 2021 when the economic solvency being opening a bank account went away and was replaced by some other requirements. So can you maybe cover now the new requirements of the Friendly Nations Visa?
Oh, definitely. So the Friendly Nations Visa was modified approximately 2 years ago. And as you mentioned, what it changed mainly was timeframes for applications, which types of residencies you were granted in different stages of the process, and the economic substance requirements. Now I'll cover them kind of step by step. So first one, timeframes. Main difference between the old Friendly Nations Visa program and the new Friendly Nations Visa program is that the old one, similar to the Pensionado, would give you a 6-month provisional residency, and then you would be granted permanent residency. So it would be a 6 to 8 month long application as a whole. Under the new program, Friendly Nations Visa first gives you a 6-month provisional. After the 6-month provisional, after 6 months temporary, they will approve your provisional residency that is granted for 2 years. After the 2 years have passed, you can apply for permanent residency, and then you will obtain your residency card. So considering that you have 6-month residency, 2-year provisional, and then another 6-month period prior to a permanent residency, it's approximately a 3-year program. So it's a substantial time increase. Second would be the economic substance requirement. Now, under the old Friendly Nations Visa, you could meet the economic substance requirement by showing that you owned an entity in Panama. And now this has changed. Under the new Friendly Nations Visa program, we have 3 economic substance requirements. First one, $200,000 investment in real estate. Standard. You can finance, but it has to be financed with a local bank. You could also have a number of properties that add up to the value as long as it's the same owner. The second, CD. You could set up a fixed term deposit with a local bank that has a license submitted inside of Panama. We do work with a number of banks, so we can assist you with the opening of your personal accounts and the opening of CDs. And the third option is employment. Now, for employment, there's 2 routes you can take. You can either be employed by a Panamanian entity in Panama, an actual offer for an actual position in Panama, or you can set up an entity to serve as your employer. Now, we do offer package options for the 3 economic substance types, in which we cover all the related costs for the structure that we need to meet for that particular investment type. So in the case of real estate, we include our fees for assistance with the real estate transaction. In the case of banking, we include the fee for setting up the banking. And in the case of the employment option, we include all of the fees for setting up and maintaining the entity for the 3-year period that will need to process your application.
Okay. Just so back on the CDs, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, if I missed it. What are the amount required for that deposit?
Yeah, minimum deposit amount for CDs is $200,000.
Okay,
And it needs to be maintained for a minimum period of 5 years
okay. And for a home purchase as well?
as
Same
well.
amount.
200,000 minimum for 5 years. And that applies to pretty much all of our residency programs that are tied to an investment of some sort. They do all require that you keep your investment for a minimum period of 5 years.
Mhm. Okay. So for the corporation or for the employment letter, I know that from my investigation in the past that obtaining a job in Panama as a foreigner is extremely difficult. So going that route of just getting a job from a Panamanian company, I think for most people is going to be a very difficult one. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no, and I'll kind
Okay.
of cover it.
Uh-huh.
The main issue that some foreigners can run into when trying to obtain employment in Panamanian companies is that we have certain limitations for the ratios of national to foreign personnel we can have in companies. So for non-technical positions, it's 90 to 10%, and for technical positions, it's 85 to 15%. So a lot of companies, they have little availability for some particular positions. It's not that it's hard, it's just that it's subject to that particular limitation. And additionally, I think it's important to mention it, there are also some professions that are protected to Panamanian nationals. Now, that includes all of the sciences and all of the executive professions, so law, medicine, economics, accounting, etc. But that also includes some of the non-regular professions. So that's also something to keep into consideration as an alternative. In case that you did not want to take the road, or you wanted to come to Panama to focus on your own business or retire, whatever it is your plan, you could set up a structure that meets all the requirements that are requested by immigration to show that you have been employed. So we set up an entity that meets all the fiscal obligations, that has a declared salary, that pays deductions for the salary. So in concept, it's an actual employment, and it will meet all the requirements for an employment. And we sell that as a package deal, in which we include all of the costs for maintaining the structure for the 3-year period that it takes to submit and finalize your application. Once you finalize the application, if you wanted to maintain the corporation for any particular purpose, you could do so. If you wanted to dissolve it, you could also do so as well.
Okay, thank you for that. So one question when it comes to setting up this special entity or corporation that I have, and you alluded to it briefly, is that, when it comes to hiring foreigners, that, the stipulations that Panama has on the percentages of employees, foreign employees that a company could have. So in theory, if you were to set this up to where it's your entity and you are the employee, are you then required by law to hire a number of Panamanians as well?
Not particularly. That's a fantastic question. The labor code does establish particular rules for how the percentages are calculated for amounts that do not account for the exact percentage. So say, for example, you have less than 10 workers, in which you can't, evenly split. So not necessarily. And our team does make sure that you meet all applicable obligations for both your residency and outside your residency with any other institution related to the particular structure.
Okay. Are you able to share with us any approximate costs for this particular method? Just approximate.
Approximate. So approximate costs, and this is full application. So our fees for applications are usually broken into a number of payments. So we have a initial retainer payment that's done prior to your visit, which is the fee we charge to start preparing your application, et cetera, et cetera. We have a payment once you arrive to Panama, which mainly covers costs for the actual ID card that we obtain on your visit, and then we have a payment by the time your application finalizes. So total amount, so you would be paying for the application realistically over a 2 period year. So the full amount for one applicant is somewhere around $9,000 to $10,000. But all of our prices are included in our website. We do have, as I mentioned, package deals for the 3 investment options. And you can consult. Of course, as I mentioned, with other visa options, we do have price increases per dependent, mainly because of the cost. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but applicants are subject to 2 particular costs when applying for residency under most programs. So one cost is it's kind of like a registration fee for immigration, $250 check to immigration. And then you have the fee that we need to pay to cover repatriation costs, which is paid to National Treasury. So those checks are also included in our application. Okay. So approximately price range $9,000 to $10,000 for one applicant, and then per applicant the prices will increase per dependent. Sorry.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So basically, our subscribers can maybe go on to once they get onto your website. There are some. There's a system there set up to calculate this, I think, based on the number of dependents you have or which visa you're applying for, to give them an approximate idea of the cost. Because just say, for example, with the option of purchasing a home, that cost is going to vary depending upon the price of the home. I think the fees vary, the more expensive the home is. So I guess for a certain person's particular situation, we can just encourage them to check it there to get a better idea.
Oh, yes. Now that you mentioned that, actually, of course, we do have a base fee for Friendly Nations visa applications, but as you mentioned, that varies a lot, especially in our package section. That varies a lot by the investment type, because of course there are investment types or economic substance requirement types that are a lot more expensive to set up and maintain than others. But now that you mentioned that, we do have a very interesting tool on our website. It's called the Panama Residency Recommendation Tool. It's a system that basically gathers a number of information on your particular situation or your family situation when looking to relocate to Panama, and it will recommend the best programs for you, and it will include quotes for those programs. Now, additionally, we do have individual sections in our website for each residency program, and we have one in particular for the Friendly Nations visa program that includes all of the packages. It includes the breakdowns of the packages, what's included with each package, what the fees are for each package, etc. So if you wanted to review that, you could also access it through our website. Okay.
I think that these 2 visa types, the Pensionado and the 3 forms of the Friendly Nation, are the ones that most of our subscribers would be interested in. But can you briefly maybe cover a few other options, just in case someone out there may be interested in some of these other options, like I guess the professional visa, if that one still exists, reforestation, and the red carpet visa, economic solvency visa?
Yeah, we have a wide range of residency programs here in Panama. From the top, I can mention of the ones that are tied to residency to investments. We have self-solvency, in which you can obtain residency via a $300,000 investment, either in real estate or a CD or combined, as long as it meets the same amount. We have the qualified investor visa, which is very similar to Pensionado in the sense that it's a 6-month program. It's one of our few remaining 6-month program. So it does give you permanent residency in 6 months. It's our only program that allows for remote presentation, but it has higher investment amounts. So for real estate investments, $300,000 up until October of this year. For investments in securities, $500,000 in securities that are emitted by securities that are listed in the stock market in Panama, and that are emitted by companies that have local operations. So it's very channelized. And for CDs, $750,000 in a CD in a local bank with an emitted license. We also have reforestation program, in which we have 2 variations of the reforestation program. We have a fast track reforestation program, the normal version reforestation program. The normal version requires a minimum investment in $100,000 in licensed reforestation programs. It is similar to Friendly Nations visa in the sense that it is a 3-year application process. So 6-month temporary, 2-year provisional, 6-month temporary, permanent residency. And you have the fast track version, which the investment amount is $400,000 if I'm not mistaken, but it does give you a 6-month permanent. So we only have three programs that are still tied to a 6-month permanent: Pensionado, Reforestation, Fast Track, and then Qualified Investor Visa. And then we also have the visas that are not necessarily tied to an investment, but are in a lot of cases tied to either your profession or a particular job. So we have the professional visa, in which you can obtain residency by homologating your degree, your university degree, with the local public university here in Panama. That's also very similar to Friendly Nations visa. It's a 3-year program, 6-month temporary, 2-year provisional, 6-month temporary, and then permanent residency. And then you also have the 10 and 50% visas, but those are visas that are particularly tied to a job. So requirements a lot of the time include receiving an actual offer for the job. And a lot of the times the visas will be granted for the duration of the period of the contract. We also have a wide range of visas that banks could also evaluate, mainly tied to investments in particular economic zones, but those are the most frequently asked for programs here in Panama.
Okay, thank you. So out of that, I just think through what may impact some of our viewers. The one I want to kind of dig back into a little bit that you mentioned is the professional visa. So you mentioned homologating that degree with a Panamanian company. I mean, can you explain a little bit more, I guess, what that means? And then also, is there any kind of employment requirement for that one?
Yes, no, that's a great question. So for the professional visa, there isn't necessarily an employment requirement, but it does give you the right to be employed by a Panamanian company. It's one of the programs that does give you a work permit, allows you to go out and get a job. Now, by homologating, that is very particular. Under our current education law, we only recognize degrees that were either admitted by institutions that have been certified by the Ministry of Education to admit such degrees, especially for higher grade education, or as an alternative, by foreign institutions that are authorized in their countries to admit those particular degrees. And those degrees need to be homologated by the University of Panama. Now, the homologation procedure basically is where the University of Panama grabs 2 curriculums and makes sure that what you study meets what you need to study here in Panama. They could require that you meet some additional credit requirements in case that some credits are not recognized, and this procedure can be lengthy in a lot of occasions. But it is possible, and if you do get your title homologated, then you could apply under the professional visa.
And is it possible with that visa to also bring in dependents?
It is possible with that visa to bring dependents.
Okay, great. That's a little known one that may be an option for some people. If they aren't able to execute some of these other ones. So thank you for that information. That's very, very helpful. So I guess the other question that I have here is, someone is preparing to come to Panama. They know they want to apply for the visa. Maybe they already know which one they want to apply for. How far ahead of their arrival do you require all of their paperwork and documents in Panama?
That is a great question. And I am extremely keen, personally, with my clients, I'm extremely keen on this. We need to make sure that our team has reviewed all the original documentation that will be provided for your file in Panama prior to scheduling a trip to Panama. And this is very particular because immigration has very specific standards for original documentation that's provided in Panama. First one, 6-month maximum validity period by the time we present. So any document in original that we provide, say a police record, a marriage certificate, a pension letter, etc., by the time we provide them at immigration, they need to be in original, apostilled, or authenticated at the Panamanian consulate in the country which it was submitted, and it needs to be emitted in no more than 6 months by the time of the date in which we apply for a residency application. So super important, keep that in mind. We have had clients that did not keep in mind the expiration date of their documents and came to Panama with documents that were already expired. So we do need at least a month in advance of your visit, so we can verify that your documents are in good order and that you're ready to travel to Panama. At the latest, if you were in a rush to proceed with your application immediately, I would say a week and a half to 2 weeks, which is the time it takes us approximately to gather translations for the original documents, et cetera, et cetera. If you have documents that are not apostilled but are authenticated at a Panamanian consulate in the country in which they were admitted, then in those cases, we will recommend that you courier them in advance, because those documents need to be certified by Foreign Affairs here in Panama prior to us providing them at immigration, and that process can be lengthy as well. So if you have documents that have been authenticated at a Panamanian consulate in the country in which they were admitted, plan at least a month and a half in advance to courier us the original documents. If they were just apostilled, you can send them to us via scan for review, make sure that they're in order. And once approved by our team, you can schedule a time to come to Panama, and you can bring your originals with you.
I'm very glad you mentioned the documents that were approved by the consulate. That is the path that we ended up taking, and had to send those in ahead of our arrival. So it's good for you to note that there's the extra step that it has to go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs there for approval. So in our case, we're actually able to come and not even have to worry about this next question, because we obtained temporary residency basically like after we moved. We moved here, we immediately started the process. We weren't going back, so it's no issue. But I know the majority of our subscribers here and people listening are people who are going to want to come. They're going to start this process to get their temporary visa. They're going to want to go back to their home country for some number of months or whatever, maybe before they make their permanent move. So for those folks, how long should they plan to stay in Panama to handle the initial portion of the process for applying for temporary residency?
That is a fantastic question. It varies by residency type, and let me explain. There are some visas that will, for example, set a banking requirement, and that can take a longer time. Or in the case that you guys are bringing documents that need to be sent to Foreign Affairs in advance prior to proceeding with immigration, in those cases, we can recommend up to 15 business days, but range for pretty much all of our visa programs, 5 to 15 business days approximately. Now, once you've applied for residency, say that you want to go back to your country of origin, our team does notify you when your next step is due, so you can plan a visit to Panama again. And now, super important to keep in mind, you don't necessarily need to come back to Panama once our team indicates that your time is due. However, if you decide to come to Panama after your temporary ID, your 6-month ID has expired, you will be subject to a $50 fine per month per ID in the application for the late time that you decide to come to Panama. But that is an option in case some of you find it difficult to travel 2 or 3 times in a year for your residence application. That is something you can consider as well.
Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate that. So typically after you present the documents to the migration office and start the application process, someone has their temporary visa. How long does it take the government to process that before they are able to get that approval? Whether it be provisional or whatever the next visa is, how long do they take typically?
Usually anywhere between 5 to 7 months, which is the reason why they give you a 6-month card. So that is a good reference on time frame for the approval of your application. However, it could take longer, but it could be done a lot faster. If you wanted to consult with our team directly on the status of your residency application, we can follow up directly. So you can just send us an email and be like, hey, if you have an update on our application, please let us know. But approximate time frame, similar time frame for the ID card. So 6 to 7 months. Roughly.
Okay. So what are the 1 or 2 pieces of advice you have for our subscribers who are looking to become expats in the future in Panama? Now, this could be related to them getting residency, or it could be related to just life here in general, or both, or whatever. So, what do you got?
Piece of advice. So first one, be very meticulous about your residency application. It is very easy to get your documents wrong. And if you do get them wrong, it can be a very expensive mistake. So we have had clients in the past that brought the wrong documents and realized them when they were here, and they had travel expenses, they had document expenses, legal expenses, hotel, etc. So be very meticulous about your residency application, particularly the original documents that you will need to provide. That's one. Second, make sure to ask for referrals. One thing we've kind of learned through the years is that expats kind of love to work through referrals, and it works that way because Panama is very referral-based economy. So, and you can get actually very good referrals from either a team or any of the members that we refer directly from our team. So that is always a good advice. You can get that kind of pre-verification, make sure that someone's good for their service in advance. And the third one, have fun. Weather is nice, the people are nice, just enjoy, honestly.
Yes, it's all of that. Yes, and more. It's great. So thank you for joining us. I did before we ended the show here, just want to let people know that we've been flashing the link there on across the screen there, so you can click that link. That will click into the tool that Guillermo mentioned, that you can go through and answer the questions, and their system will determine which visa type is the best for you. And upon completing that, then you'll be receiving a document from Kraemer and Kraemer, kind of outlining the process and the requirements, the approximate costs, and then thereafter you'll be contacted by someone there to move forward with the process. So, so thanks again, Guillermo, for joining us. Appreciate your time today, and we look forward to meeting you all in person when we come to the city.
Thank you too, Alonso. And if you by chance do not come to the city, we also do have offices in Boquete and Boca del Toro, which is areas in which expats tend to hang around a lot. So if you have needs in the interior, you can also pass by any of our offices in Boquetes or Bocas, and our team will be happy to have you.
That's fantastic. See, I didn't even know that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alonso.
Have a great day.
You too.
A ti, a ti, a ti, a ti.